It is. So they were finishing off there with finale from Terrace Fortissima by Stephen Ponswood. I just have a couple of interesting points for those. We've heard a lot of these pieces, Terrace Fortissima, the Salvation type, army type of music, they're structured very much in the same way. Glorifico Eternum and all that, they're structured in the same way, but very catchy on the ear. So as you can see why the bands are picking them as finishers.
Very formulaic, isn't it? But in style. But as you say, it's very popular as well. Although within the Salvation Army, it's extremely popular, and quite a number of composers have copied that style. And it has, in recent years, it's pervaded a lot of what's come out of there. So I remember a few years ago, we were at the 120th anniversary of the ISB. It was in the Royal Albert Hall, and it was a huge event. It was a great event, actually. It was really very impressively done. And they had 8 staff bands from over the world there. And every one of them came and played music in that style. And I think if there was one criticism I'd have made of the weekend, it was like quite an elderly audience there in the main. And they were crying out for a bit of Eric Ball.
There was no Eric Ball, wasn't it? Was that the stuff?
There
was no Eric Ball in it.
There was no Eric Ball, no, and a bit of RSA and stuff. It would have been great if they'd had all that great old Salvation Army music, but it's still good music, isn't it?
Well, I'd at risk of being controversial.
Oh, please do, please do.
Sometimes I have to say, I think there's only so many times you can rewrite the same piece, and I think there are, there are limitations. I mean, you keep, I think you hit the nail on the head. There were composers that have been influenced by other composers within banding, and we seem to have this churning out formulaic pieces sometimes. And I think we've got to try and get away from that. We've got to think in more original ways, and I think that there are elements of that piece. And don't get me wrong, it's a great finisher. I mean, it was a good finish to that programme. But I think if you look at that piece and compare it with others that you could argue maybe are broadly similar, we really have got to get away from that formulaic nature. We've got to try and think a little more originally musically, I think, or creatively. We've got to think.
I got to say, in defence, it's made me learn much more. My Latin has come back when I was in school. All I can remember is amor mas amata, mamas amatas amant, was I love you, love and all that. But edificare nunc feci sunt, which used to say to the teachers, which we are tired, we do not want to work. That was about as much as my Latin. But every time you hear these pieces, my Latin, it all just keeps coming back to me. So there we go. So that's that part.
Your
of it.
Latin's better than your Welsh, Ewan, isn't
I
it?
know. It is that. I always thought I was bilingual. I didn't tell what my second language was. That's what it is for that one there. When we come back in a few minutes' time as well, there's going to be band number 12 will be on, which is Hatfield Band with Stan Lippiott. And we were talking to Stan a little bit earlier on, and it's interesting the programme that he has picked. He's picked to start off with Fest Music de Stad Vienne, which is Richard Strauss, arranged by Eric Banks. They're following that with The Lord is Gracious, traditional arranged by Frank Bernhardt. Lord of the Dance, again a traditional arranged by Frank Bernhardt. The cornet solo You Raise Me Up, which was originally written by The Secret Garden and arranged by Steve Walker, and the cornet soloist there is Claire Taylor. And they're finishing off with an interesting choice, the first movement from the Second Sinfonietta for band by Jean Balisard, a Swiss composer. So fair play to Stan. He came in and he's lived up to his word there.
Bit of a wild card, that last piece, isn't it?
Wild card.
Bit of a wild card.
There.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go back and ask you about something that Stan said about that. I'm not going to say just bearing in mind that Stan is actually living up to what he's going to be doing. But there has been variety there. And as you said, if we are going to do it, we are going to push the boundaries and we are going to do the entertainment side of it, that's the way possibly to go forward. Look at New Horizons.
Yeah, well, the Balisat piece we were talking about earlier, and there's a couple of things I think that are quite important about the Balisat piece. We've talked about new music. The Balisat piece isn't new music. Stan played that piece.
He's dead now, so he's not going to write anything.
Well, no, it isn't.
You ain't going to write anything more.
But it's 30 years old. I mean, Stan was playing that piece when he was in Grimethorpe. So it's far from being a new piece. It's a good piece. We know it. We've heard it before. A lot of people in the hall won't know it. But it's quality music. It's written by a composer who wrote orchestral music and who worked outside the band movement as well. And it's an unusual choice. It's a piece that he's looked back in time. Okay, it's a piece he knew, as I said, from his Grimethorpe days. But it's a little bit different. And that, I like that. I think that's creative programme building. It doesn't necessarily have to be a brand new piece.
I'll check it back.
Entertaining either. It's not. You always associate Stan with the entertainment side of brass band. But that piece that we're talking about, it's not one that you'd naturally say, oh, that's a great entertaining piece. It's a fine piece of music to close a brass band.
It's a serious piece of music. It's a serious piece of music.
Yeah, it's a great choice.
They're going to test me. Kenny's pet subject here now. He's like Rain Man when it comes to that. Right? Here he goes. Here he goes.
I know what you're going to do.
Yeah, I'm going to do it.
I don't know.
This is the only.
His physique slightly different to Dustin Hoffman, though, isn't it?
He's going to do that. So because you can ask Kenny Crookston. Honestly, you can ask Kenny Crookston. You know, who won the national? He's going to get it wrong. Who won the national championships in 1954?
One in Felton's.
There we go. Who won the British Open in 1976? There we go. Who wrote the test piece for the 1994 European Brass Band Championships?
Jean Balasat.
So there we go. So you got in
Le Chant d'Alpes.
the Song of the Alps.
The
Song of the Alps. So there we are. So my Swiss French is just as good as my Latin, just about which is about non-existent. I would have thought for that. But going back on to the things that you've talked about, Kenny, with what they're trying to do, exciting what they're doing in Butlins, because they're just showing again. Because in many ways, we talked about Butlins had reached a certain point, and people were thinking, what happens next? And it didn't want to go down the route that would happen at Pontins, which it got stale. And people then got a little bit fed up. But they've actually moved the goalposts again and got the bands thinking and keeping it fresh.
Yeah, I think this is it's a general point that pervades entertainment contests. You know, and it goes back to Brass and Concert as well. And I think what happened at Butlins, I think Stan's absolutely right. It seems that the programmes that appeared at Butlins last year were less entertaining, if you like. And there was a few kind of infotainment type programmes in there.
Infotainment, yeah.
Yeah, but nothing that had them kind of just dancing in the aisles, was there? And I think this, to a certain degree, it was the same at the Sage last year in Brass and Concert. And there's some crossover of bands there as well, so that's natural. And there's only a couple of months between the events, so you expect that to be the case. But I think, it's almost as if bands are looking to try and find a formula that's not necessarily there. It doesn't necessarily have to be a formula, does it? Just go and do something good. Play good music, play it well.
But if the prod is coming from the organisers, in many ways, sometimes that outside influence is going to be the benefit to the bands. Because sometimes the bands, it's like a herd mentality. They all think they've got to go in the one direction. Or if somebody does something new, they all tend to follow. So if Corey have done something new, they all tend to follow.
That's the way it's always
direction.
been. We bands have always followed others. It's
but what Butlins are thinking about here above all is their audience. The audience have made a statement to them last year. This wasn't quite as entertaining as it's been in the past. They're going to do something about it. You can just about guarantee, come January, the middle of January, when we're all going to Skegness and our welly boots, that it's going to be great again, and they're going to love it because they've actually taken a step to move the goalposts, as you say.
And quite rightly, because that place is packed with bandsmen.
Yeah.
The place is absolutely full, so it's quite right that they do take notice of what the audience say.
And talking about the audience, it's very packed in the hall as well. And we're going back straight to Simone Rebello when the next band is due to take the stage.
Ladies and gentlemen, band number 12 are